Hey everyone, it's Mike from Triple V. This is what probably like my 500th show or something like that, 400th show. I've been doing a lot of work recently anyway. Anyway, I wanted to have Daniel Rothschild on here to talk about a variety of different topics. Obviously, one of the first things we have to talk about is the government shutdown. First of all, Rothschild, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Are you adequate today? Are you adequate?
I'm adequate.
All right, good. So, not bad. Better than bad.
I'm
Is what I
always
say.
adequate when I see you.
Look, oh, that hits me right here, actually. All right. So when we're looking at the government shutdown, because what was it? Most of the government still stayed open, especially the people who,
85%,
yeah,
right?
especially the people who, yeah, the people who wanted to keep the theft going and the control going. They're the ones who they never
Yeah.
really lost anything in this, right? I don't know how they
Yeah.
shut down,
Did
but
you hear
go
Stefan
ahead.
Molyneux's line? He's like, people are always like, what can we cut? And I'm like, 50% of the government, they went home. The world didn't fall apart. That's 15% right there.
Yeah, really. Well, obviously, right off the bat, you can say that more of the time it seems like that the government is not necessarily efficient, but that it gets in the way. So the whole thing with them blocking off the memorials and them not allowing people to see or fish out in the sea, 1,200 miles, square miles of ocean just completely blocked off by the government. And if you fish in that area, obviously you're getting a fine, which is funny because they have all these people that they have to hire to go shut down this stuff. So anyway, it's so funny because I guess they think that they own the oceans, right? In fact, there was a post that came out yesterday on the Facebook page Statism and Slavery, and it basically said the sky is shut down until further notice by government, right, or something to that effect.
Well,
And it's just like,
they claim the airwaves. That's the argument for the FCC, that the airwaves are a public good and therefore we can regulate them, right? So
well, see, this is another thing. Public good, even if that's the case, why would we give it to an entity like government, right? This is the whole.
because
This is the whole.
they are they are the public apparently, right? I mean,
Ah,
right?
I guess so. That's what they say, but
It's
the
called
reality of the
public
situation.
school. It's not called
Well,
government school.
well, here's the thing. They say public is really all about everybody owns everything, right? But we know that if there's a protest, even like I think most of the 99 percenters will tell you that when time came and the cops started walking on the lawn, when the each politicians kicked those kids off the lawn, they had to move. It wasn't their property, right? So the whole the whole definition of private property is really just an illusion,
Right.
and it's rooted out of public policy in itself. But when we look back at the government shutdown now, obviously, for those who don't know, they already signed the bill. What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago? That everything we already knew this was going to
What a
happen.
surprise that they reached a
Yeah,
compromise before the default. Who would have known? I mean, did you
I
know that was
know.
going to happen?
Yeah, I only called it before the shutdown even started.
So did I. My
Yeah,
father's like, "What do
yeah,
you think of the shutdown?" I'm like, "What shutdown? What? This is
yeah.
the only thing that's missing is my popcorn. This is just political theater."
Absolutely, and they did pretty good. I mean, this is all where all your
They
money
deserve an
goes,
Academy Award.
folks. Yeah, this is where all the money really goes is into this entertainment system right here, right? Into this, it's like the WWF wrestling.
Yeah.
It's a form of entertainment,
They were
except for
trying
the
to
fact,
show they were trying to show that the people were idiots, and they proved them right.
yeah. Actually, this is where all your money's going. In essence, is into this black hole. These are the people who are riding around on jets and getting lobster dinners on your kids' credit cards, right? I mean, this is the reality of the world. And the whole time that they're doing this, people are just lapping it up. I mean, people just absolutely really get into this left, right. Oh my gosh, we need to do something or else healthcare is not going to be there. Like as if the government's not going to continue to take over healthcare. It's funny too because people act like Obamacare is like this one huge threat, and if it wasn't for just those 9 letters, then we would have a free market healthcare system like we have the last 50 years of good old America, right? Well, that's not even true at all. The system, the medical industrial complex has been kicking, and that's part of the government. For the reason that anybody ever says industrial complex is because it's a branch of some form of a monopoly control of government, right? So it's either subsidized, controlled, have its people appointed by in some form or fashion or another. This is just going to continue to go on for a long time until more people completely outright reject the state, because as long as people continue to think that any of these threats, like they're not going to pass Obamacare, or that the government might default on the loan. It really is like what Rothschild's saying, all political theater. It's all there to just get you to feel like it's really like the person who might have had to fill out a form for some government agency, but that week it was shut down. The government was there to make that person say, not that they necessarily want the government, but I just wish the government was open right now, so I wouldn't have to go through all these hoops and jump through all these barrels. I just want to be able to just live my life and go through it. And so the average person might even be upset about government shutdowns now. If anything, that's the last thing that they want, because look at all the trouble it put them through. Although if you actually had a free society, especially over time, as spontaneous order continues to take over society, uh, these efficiencies you wouldn't be able to disrupt a whole economy like this, and put all these people in such need for whatever they need to do. Most of the time it was like, well, I need this piece of document so I can have this start up this business, or so I can get a new truck driver's license or something like that. But the federal department's closed down, and it's just like, whoa, so you need a license from them, you need permission from them, so that after the government shut down, because it's all a joke, that when they come back, so you don't go into a cage. All right, so now we've kind of summarized that pretty well. Anyway, Rothschild, not to steal your spotlight here, buddy, but anything else you want to add on the government shutdown?
Well, yeah. Look, I'm not saying anything that I don't think anyone already knows, but the media, which also a government agency, by the way, right? The media is a whore that sucks the government's dick. You saw a lot, especially I saw it on like MSNBC, where they were calling Detroit a libertarian paradise. And I was just like, you guys are such assholes. Your idea of a libertarian paradise is totally destroy a town with your inane policies, and then when they fail, due to your policies, you say it's libertarian. I mean, this is just an example of not taking any personal responsibility. My policies fail, and now it's a libertarian paradise.
Well, that's what we should expect from the state, right? Is because of sovereign immunity, there is no responsibility or accountability for anybody's actions. You don't even know who's voting for what, because it's all private ballot.
I mean, what they're basically saying is, if a government comes in and destroys the roads, leaves, they're saying, see, look, there's no government anymore, and look, there are no roads. Yeah, because the government destroyed them, you schmuck.
What's the old line? They break your leg, hand you a crutch, and say, "Oh, here's the bill."
They say if it weren't for the government, you wouldn't be able to walk, and here's the bill, right?
And give you the bill.
Yeah. And then call you unappreciative. Then they call you unappreciative.
Yeah. Right. Now, let's go over to. So obviously the government shut down. That's a whole political theater joke. So I hope you just see right through that. Let's move on to tribalism. This is my view of tribalism when I think of it. I think of a lack of private property. I think of a form of a commune or collective, in many cases forced, because they have some chief up there that's going to be the directive of some kind. And it is based around, once again, this collectivist ideal set. So to me, when people say, what do you want to do, go back to tribes? Like, that's not a form of statism. I almost want to slap them. Of course I don't, because I'm not a aggressionist. Really, I don't want to slap anybody either. But in essence, it really irks me, because it's like, well, that is statism. The tribalism, to me, at least, is statism. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that people don't seem to make the distinction between competing states or failed states and anarchy, right? I mean, I don't think any rational person would say that Somalia is an example of anarchy, or that the Native Americans practiced anarchy, right? These are all examples of tribalism and of a form of control and domination, right? I mean, was serfdom the type of society that we are defending? Is serfdom an example of a free market? No, it's just it's the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, when people, if anybody, my advice to you is if anybody ever says, what do you want to do? Go back to tribalism? Automatically say, actually, once again, just like I don't want to move to another state, I don't want to go back to a different type of even a more primitive version of a state, which was a tribe. So that's all statism. It's all in the
Mm-hmm.
same realm.
Yeah.
Individual freedom and private property and respecting others. That's in a completely different aspect. And yeah. Anyway, so we
And
can move on from. Go
well,
ahead.
another thing that I would like to say is one of the things you hear a lot is that the government's it's a natural thing that people just naturally are tribal, and therefore that even if you got rid of the state, it would just form again, and because people naturally gravitate to these things. Um, and I think there are two responses you can give to this argument. One, if if we get rid of the state and it turns into a state, well, if the worst that happens, if it comes to a state, I say we try it. If I'm afraid you're going to steal my wallet, the solution isn't to give you my wallet in order to prevent that, because then I lose automatically. But I think the more important thing to mention is that if it were truly true that people naturally desire a government, and this is a natural thing that people want, why would the government spend tons and tons of money to convince people to do what they're naturally going to do anyway? You don't generally see commercials for drink water. They might tell you to drink a certain bottle of water that they want to advertise. You're not going to do that, right? People aren't going to advertise and spend all this money and all this resources to convince you to do something they're going to do anyway. You only need to spend all this money to convince someone to do something that they're not going to do, that they didn't think of going to do, and you want to sway that. So if it were true that people just naturally gravitate to a state, there would be all this propaganda and all this resources to try to convince them to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that really hammering on the why people love the state?
No, I think the reason people like the state is because um, people. I I think people don't like confrontation, and people. I mean, one of the things, and I've spoken to this, I think, on your show numerous times, is people would rather ignore you than say no. I think if I just for anyone who doesn't believe me, do an experiment and ask uh, a girl that you know on a date that you pretty sure doesn't want to go out with you, and I would bet you're more likely for her to say yes and for her simply not to return your calls than for her to say outright no. People don't like saying no to people's faces. People have a very uncomfortable time saying no to people's faces. But people, but it's not because, but just because they don't want people to, react, or they don't want to see the pain that people cause, right? I mean, people would love it if they could just email someone and tell them that they're fired instead of having to do it face to face, right? And it's not because they don't want to fire anyone; it's just because they don't want to see the consequences that their actions are bringing. They have no problem, firing someone. They just don't want to see the person crying when they have to do it. And I think that's a big appeal of statism. I don't have to steal from you directly. I don't have to break into your house directly. And most people wouldn't do that. Most people would feel very uncomfortable because for a few reasons. One, if I break into your house directly, I could be hurt. Secondly, it's very, very clear if I break into your house directly who the robber is, so my reputation is gone. I can also be hurt, and no one's going to like me. But if under a secret ballot I can have a group of people steal on my behalf where no one knows it's me voting for them, no one, it's become the socially acceptable thing. I don't have to risk, having someone defend themselves against me. It's very appealing, right? The reason people advocate the welfare state isn't, and this is, I think, where I disagree with a lot of anarchists, where I hear a lot of anarchists and they say statists don't see the gun in the room, and if we point out the gun in the room, that's what we have to do. Maybe I'm a bit more misanthropic and cynical, but who thinks taxation is voluntary? They're aware that taxation is compulsory. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care that it's forced. They know that when they say the government should provide health care, they are forcing people to pay for things they don't want to pay for. They know that. They don't care.
Yeah, and obviously this is why I've always said that the state is like a cheat code in a video game because, well, why play the game and just try and do it the right way when I can use the cheat code and make it much easier? Unfortunately, it would be nice if life didn't have the cheat code, aka the government, but it does. And so I completely agree with you here. There's not much for me to add. I would argue that I think some people do love the state because they are still stuck in the illusion. So I think it's a mixture. I think
Right.
some people do care that it's violence, but I think a lot of people don't also. So
Hmm.
I know people in my own family that I think are just not people that I really want to hang around anymore. I just don't want to hang around certain people, even in my own family, because they know the reality of the world and they continue to choose a different violent path, and it just really upsets me. And people like you're saying know where they can actually improve the world, and let alone through themselves. And I think they just don't. So I think it comes down to a partial bit of laziness. But I also do think that there is, we're in a sick society, right? So a lot of the people
Very.
around us are just very, very twisted and sick in many different ways. And I think the idea that you can control somebody else, or that it's even possible through a central monopoly and to do it efficiently and ethically, I think it escapes a few people, and that there are some people that would change if they really got this. Obviously, I was one of them. You were probably one of them a while back. But there's also a lot of people who wouldn't. So I do second that.
And
Which
it's also
brings
very
us.
comfortable.
Good.
Sorry. It's also very comfortable for people's ego because, you know, no one wants. You're not an anarchist because it's emotionally gratifying, right? I mean, it's somewhat depressing in a lot of ways because you realize you're surrounded by violence and it's unlikely that it's going to stop within your lifetime. That is a very depressing feeling. There are almost times, and I was saying this to Rob, Voluntarist Revel, where there are some days where I wish I didn't take that red pill, that I wish I could just be that, not be deluded and be happy in certain ways, right? People aren't anarchists because it's comfortable for the ego, but government, right? People would rather, if the options are being aware that you're ruled or deluding yourself that you're in charge, what's the more emotionally gratifying one? Believing that you actually are in charge. So people want to believe that we tell the government what to do. They're our civil servants. They serve us. People want that feeling. It's much more comfortable than having to wake up every day and feeling like someone is that the money taken from you by force is against your will, and that you are constantly bullied. That's depressing. People don't want to think of like that, so they create this fantasy world where the government is their servant and they're the boss and they're in charge. But as I think Lark and Rose stated it very well, if someone could boss you around and take your money, they're not your servant.
Yeah, absolutely. I even have a T-shirt I sell on Non-Aggression Apparel, which says, um, when people who take your money by force don't represent you, or something to that effect, and it's actually one of the top sellers. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's move over to anarchist singles. Obviously, I do notice a lot of people that are still in the liberty movement now. Now, most of the people I know I have contact with are men. I will be upfront and honest with that. And I think on the back end of my page, I get about 20%, 20 to 25% female, and about 75% male, something like that. And that's actually probably more females than some other libertarian pages actually get. But it just seems that there are a lot of anarchist singles, and you would think that more of them would connect. Obviously, some have. But what's your
Yeah.
thought on anarchist singles out
I
there in the
mean, I
world?
don't know. I mean, I look. I don't really live in a free state. I'm from New York. I'm in California now. I sort of, I guess choose the. I mean, I'm not in DC, so I'm not in the belly of the beast. But I guess I don't choose the best spots. But I think maybe it was Kelly Diamond or someone was saying to me that these anarchist women, they don't realize how lucky they have it. They have a huge pick of these intelligent men who are actually going to respect them as a person, who are not going to tell them what to do, or not going to say, "Make me dinner, bitch." And they're so lucky, and you know, it sort of sucks for guys because I think I think most libertarians, it's pretty much a sausage fest, so it's sort of worth fighting, who can get the women before they're all taken. But I don't know. I think it's somewhat hard out there. I know for me, I mean, I don't really care if the woman I'm going out with, is an anarchist or not. I mean, it doesn't really. I don't really care. But what I do want is someone.
Wait. You don't care about having ideologies that are similar and having ethical premises that are.
I mean, I do.
Congruence?
Well, I do care, but I don't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that I would refuse to date someone unless they were an anarchist. I'm right. I'll date someone who's not an anarchist, but obviously, ideally, that would be best to, yes, to date someone, who believes in peace and nonviolence and all that stuff. But it won't be, I don't have like a shopping list, and that's one of my requirements. Eggs, milk, anarchy. But I mean, one of the requirements though is, and I'm seeing progressively less of this. If we talk, I want at least someone, when I have a discussion with them, are not just repeating talking points. I wouldn't want to date an anarchist who's just repeating talking points. I would rather date a statist who actually thinks for themselves, although I don't know what kind of statist that would be, than an anarchist who is just repeating talking points. I want a person who's actually thinking for themselves, hearing arguments, coming up with their own ideas, and not just repeating things that they've heard over and over again. Like, libertarianism is this very, extremist Ayn Randian thing where if you've actually read Ayn Rand, she said we're worse than the communists. And how many of these people even read Ayn Rand anyway? They probably think it's hip to criticize Ayn Rand. They haven't probably read a word. I don't believe for a moment Obama's read Ayn Rand. Bullshit. Right? It's just a popular thing to criticize Ayn Rand, and they hear other people, hey, I like you, and you don't like Ayn Rand, so Ayn Rand must suck, without actually seeing if they've actually read her, right? So it's just people repeating talk.
Right. So as far as anarchist singles, I guess my
I'm
thing,
out there. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Although
No,
this is the best I got. I'm sorry.
Hey, it's not. I mean, I really don't know. I don't assume that. But anyway, well, I guess what I would really highly encourage people is to get in a relationship with somebody who is focused on similar things as you. Not on everything, obviously. That's I think it's almost impossible anyway. But I think it's really crucial for voluntarists to really stick together and going down in the future. I guess that's the best way to put it. I'll just kind of end it on that. I think more voluntarists should date other voluntarists. I think it's going to make your life much easier. I think you're going to enjoy the relationship. You'll get more out of it. And anybody who's, to me, if you're, I hate to say it like this because it really is elitist, but if you're not a voluntarist, then you really haven't either thought, man, do you guys got a war going on over in California or something? I can hear everything in the background over there.
A war?
Yeah, it's I hear all the sirens.
The government shut down here, so we have all these tanks in the street and people are raping each other and smashing windows and.
Yep. I figured as much, but I think it is easier to have a good relationship.
It was actually in California. It was quite statist, but then they bombed a road and left. So now it's a libertarian utopia.
You're crazy, man. All right, guys. Well, I guess I can be hookup central for Rothschild. So if you know any ladies who want an anarchist dude like Rothschild, here he is, ready to go.
I will pleasure you in ways you cannot.
All righty. All right. And that's it for today, guys. No, thanks, Rothschild, for checking us out.
The best way to spread the liberty message is to make liberty babies. So women, this is for you. You want to. We need more anarchists, and I'll help you out.
Yeah, if you like freedom, you better have sex with Rothschild, okay? All right, I'm done with this. Later, guys. Thank you so much, Rothschild. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.